So he's absolutely renowned for his work as a poet and performer. Michael Rosen, of course, though, is also a beloved figure in the children's book world. I'm sure if you've not read them yourselves, you've read them to your youngsters. We're going on a bear hunt, huge bestseller, and Little Rabbit Foo-Foo.
Of course, Michael has been on a difficult journey, though, recently, after a battle with coronavirus that saw him spend 47 days in ICU. He's now recuperating at home. He credits the NHS, of course, with his recovery. We're delighted to say he joins us this morning. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Ben. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning to you, and so lovely to hear you. How are you feeling, first of all?
I'm feeling good, yes. I mean, COVID has a long tail, depending on how severe the infection was and whether you were in intensive care, which I was. But there are people all over the country, you know better than me, Kate, that it isn't an illness that you just have and then leave behind. But I'm feeling good. I am feeling very good, and I hope, Kate, it gives you some hope too.
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic to see people coming through this. And you had a very tough time, didn't you? I know that people who've been touched by COVID always think about those that have lost their lives, who had a tougher time. But you had a very tough time. There were times when you felt that you were hours from death.
Indeed, no, several times, and sometimes because of what Emma, my wife, has told me, or doctors told me. They have this little phrase, they say, very poorly. They say, doctors say, you were very poorly, and then they may explain, so they were telling me that my kidneys were in trouble, my liver was in trouble, that I had respiratory troubles, and also I got a secondary infection of pneumonia that worried them as well, and they had to pack antibiotics into me. Also, right from the very beginning, we followed the instructions, which was not to contact the GP, not to go to A&E. And it was only because we have a friend on the patch here who's a GP, and she tested my oxygen levels. And Emma rushed me to A&E to get tested. So in the end, it was luck. I might have just gone that night. So at various stages over the period, over the 3 to 4 months, I could have disappeared, yes.
Michael, did you have, or have you got any idea necessarily why it affected you so badly? Did you have some underlying health issues, or was it just that you were one of those unlucky ones that got a very heavy dose?
No underlying health issues. I have an underactive thyroid, but I take, something to deal with that every day. No doctor has ever said that there were any underlying health issues. I have no lung problems, no heart problems. So it just seems that I got picked off. I'm 74 and I'm male, so that puts me in the target zone. And it's quite clear just from reading things is that some people, the COVID virus finds a nice home. I mean, remember, it operates trying to find an environment that suits it. So we don't exactly ever know quite why a virus sits in one person's body rather than another one. And obviously, if people do have underlying health problems, then it's the consequences that are difficult to cope with, asthma and things like that, yes.
And well, let's turn to the team that managed to pull you through it. Not only were you sort of coping in your coma, but the NHS staff. I imagine that you have an extraordinary amount of love and affection for what they managed to help you with.
Just massive and incredible. I mean, they saved my life several times. And more than that, this may not seem very big or important looking, but this is an incredible little book. It's the nurses who looked after me when I was in intensive care wrote basically little diary entries and letters to me when they came off duty. So there's pages in here of accounts of what they saw me and the state I was in. And it is so moving and so incredible. It's wonderful. But then after I was in intensive care, I went to a rehab hospital. There are not many of them in the country, but luckily there is one in London, in St Pancras. And at the stage when I went in, I couldn't even stand up, or if I did just about stand up, I was panting and gasping and hated it. And the team of physiotherapists there, within 3 weeks, they got me, well, walking to the loo, which was an incredible achievement via wheelchair, which I'd have been quite happy to sit in for longer. I was quite priding myself on my wheelchair technique. A sort of Zimmer frame, and my great friend Sticky McStickstick, who helped me a lot. But then I was told not to be stick reliant, and so I'm teaching myself to walk, which is coming on, thanks to the physios at St Pancras Rehab Hospital.
And that was simply, was it, your difficulty with walking because of the weakness in your body and your lungs needing that air?
Yes, and also I have low blood pressure. So one of the effects of what they call deconditioning when you're in intensive care is not only that your muscles all become weak and atrophy, but also that I had low blood pressure. In fact, some of the most moving pieces in this book are the nurses telling me saying that they kept waking me up because they were so worried my blood pressure was going down below a safe level, and I was thrashing about in the bed, but my blood pressure was so low they were worried. And I still have it. In the morning when I wake up, I do a whole lot of arms and leg stuff to get my heart going again, because it dips. I can feel it, that it's sort of dozy, and then the walking is both the heart and the weakness, particularly in my thighs and core. They're pathetic. They feel like cardboard.
You need to build that strength up, don't you? Well, two people who will be delighted to hear you're doing all those exercises are your physiotherapists that joined us from St Pancras this morning. Emma Roussel is there. We've got occupational therapist as well, Ashima Sharma. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Lovely to have you with us this morning. Thank you for taking time to talk us through. I know Michael's there and he's got a big beaming smile on his face looking at the two of you. Maybe you can sort of let us know, Emma, what it was like. I mean, is it very typical, as Michael was describing, the sort of the reaction that he's had post virus to having to sort of build up that strength? Is that typical for some of the patients you've been finding, having to help them learn to walk again, have the confidence to stand up? And what are some of the challenges you've been facing?
Well, absolutely, and we're seeing it more and more now in these weeks and months. I mean, in our physiotherapy sessions with Michael, as he said, we've focused on slowly building up his strength and getting him back on his feet. So that was through practicing exercises, but also just doing day-to-day activities, like trying to get up from the bed, then standing, and then walking, and practicing slowly until he was able to walk again on his own, albeit with the new addition of his good friend Sticky McStickstick.
I mean, it's... Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say, I think for Michael and with so many of the people that we are seeing now and working with now, the experience of COVID was so difficult, both physically but also emotionally. Yet in our therapy sessions, he was always really positive and very motivated. And I'm sure that really, really helped his rehabilitation and meant it was a pleasure to work with him.
Oh, well, that's very nice. I mean, what you're doing and what, of course, people like yourself are doing for so many people all around the country at various different levels is absolutely huge, because what we're seeing, aren't we, is that at the beginning of the crisis, people were either getting it mildly or making it through, although some were losing their life. And now we're seeing more and more damage and challenges for people recovering. So you're only going to get busier, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're already seeing it now. And yeah, within the rehab unit, we're seeing it. And I think also out in the community, once people leave us, that rehabilitation continues, and the teams that are working in people's homes and working with people are really busy as well, and going to keep on being busy for a while.
Michael, I'd imagine that you would like to say a few words to the girls.
Yes, they're my heroes. They were wonderful. They just did fantastic things. Got me walking and asthma throwing a ball at me. It was quite painful, actually, but they're wonderful. Absolutely, they're my total heroes. I'll never forgive them.
Yeah,
I'll never forgive Ashma for the ball throwing.
She's trying to point out she was trying to throw it to you, not at you, Michael.
Definitely to you.
Yes, exactly. No, as my wife says, I'm prone to exaggeration. Yes.
Rightly
yeah.
so. Ashma,
Michael, your idea...
They were amazing.
The journal that the team around you started for you and in the coma is something that I've just started with Derek, actually. In the early stages, to be honest, I think the team were just so focused on medical life or death that I don't think there was a second. They were so overstretched to do anything like that. But now it started, and I found it as a relative really helpful because teams change, staff change, there's different, and actually for them to come back and look at things from the day before helps them to know the patient that's in a state of unconsciousness at whatever level. It's a wonderful idea, and it's wonderful that you've got that.
And I've also got Emma's letters to the wider family, people who aren't living with us, you know, my oldest children and relatives and so on. So yesterday she showed me for the first time the emails she sent out, sort of giving my progress. So that's another journal, if you like, which I'm very moved by. It's very difficult for me to read it, but at the same time it tells me this period in my life that doesn't exist. I mean, for nearly 7 weeks, there's no memory of it. I mean, I'm being told that I hallucinated, I was delirious, I was thrashing around, but I've hardly got any memory of it.